Another day, another Talk Shop podcast. This week we had on Marlon Johnson, a good friend of mine that I actually met in a park while he was doing some crazy flips and parkour stuff. Awesome guy, brand new to real estate. He's already done 3 deals in a couple of months and he's built this awesome social media audience. I need you guys to hear from him how it is to start from zero, what it's really like to get started in the beginning, and it made me reminisce on how I felt when I got started a few years ago. He's in a totally different side of the business than me. He's in wholesaling, flipping contracts, and he's been actually successful at it. So I invited him on the podcast. I wanted people to feel what he feels, and to understand what it really takes to go from zero to closing 3 deals in a couple of months. It's those little pieces of advice that he dropped throughout this podcast that you'll be able to tell. I mean, it's very easy to pick up on. That'll help you convert from, I guess, watching Netflix and having your normal job to being able to have a side hustle that'll turn into your full-time hustle in a couple of months and let you do what you really want to do, along with building those stepping stones. So enjoy the podcast. I'm going to let him tell you guys what it's all about. You guys are going to hear it all here. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy.
You are now listening to Talk Shop with Allon Avgi.
Marlon, welcome to my podcast.
Dude, Allon, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
So my last podcast that I was a guest on, was actually the first one I was on in 2 years was yours. The one before that was with Justin and Frank, which I just filmed with them yesterday, funny enough. But I had such a good time with yours. I said I have to get back into it. I'm in this whole content creation grind. I launched my own, the Talk Shop podcast, and I had to have you on as a guest because I realized what you started doing back then when we had that podcast, before you even locked up a deal, and those updates that you've been giving me, and where you're at so far right now is just, you've been taking massive strides of improvement, and I'm so impressed. I wanted you on the podcast. I feel like you can motivate, inspire, and teach so many people, that whoever would be listening, hopefully so many people. But seriously, I'm really happy you're here, and I'm really impressed with how far you've come in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, man, dude, thank you. I mean, it helps, honestly, being able to tap into a network, tap into individuals like yourself, and expand and grow. It's been an absolute game changer, right? Because coming into this world, it was brand spanking new for me. You and I met in a park, right? I was doing some parkour, you were working out, this is years back, and I was a completely different individual. You still had that entrepreneurial mindset to you. Back then, you guys still had, what was it, Vital
Performance.
Performance, yeah. And so I met you and you had that mindset, but my brain wasn't quite there yet. So coming into this world of real estate investing, tapping into my entrepreneurial spirit, tapping into my investment mindset, it's been day and night, and I'm still finding myself out in an ocean trying to keep up and swim with everybody, but I am changing, and that's been cool to notice in myself, and it's been cool when other people are noticing it in me. So I appreciate you for kind of catching on to that.
I mean, to be fair, you're grinding on a whole nother level. I think you work harder than me. You're up at 4 a.m. every day. That's crazy to me. For those of you that don't know or that don't follow Marlon, I want you to drop your Insta in there, because everybody has to follow you. This guy wakes up every day at 4 a.m. He has something called the 4 a.m. Club. It is mind-blowing. I check it out when I log in Instagram at 9 a.m. I see your 4 a.m. club grind. So tell everybody your Instagram.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? So the Instagram's at Mindset Marlon. Make sure you follow it at Mindset, M-I-N-D-S-E-T, Marlon, M-A-R-L-O-N. And yeah, man, the 4 a.m. club, that really started from actually plugging into a mentor of mine. I got a mentor, this guy named Pace Morby out in Arizona. And he's running 12 businesses. He's mentoring over 1,000 students. He has a family, wife, 2 kids, and the guy is just plugged in all day long, 24/7, kind of like yourself. And one day I reach out to him. I'm like, Pace, dude, how the hell are you doing it? How are you keeping everything going? Your businesses are all growing and expanding and scaling. You're showing up for your students where each of them feel like they're getting one-on-one time with you. The dude was in Zoom, I swear to you, 5 or 6 hours a day, just pouring into people. Where I'm like, dude, I already know pouring into a person for 30 minutes is energy draining. He's doing it for hours on end and then still operating his business and then still showing up at home for his family. I was like, how the hell are you not getting
Oh, he
burnt
must
out?
make a fortune.
Dude, he's doing well for himself. He really is. And when he responded to me, he said, check it out, man. Truth of the matter, no more than 5 hours of sleep. And this is not, by the way, this isn't a recommendation for anybody or everybody. This is just his answer to me, and this is what I took and ran with. No more than 5 hours of sleep, right? And you have to be okay with hugging the toilets, right? So he calls hugging the toilets doing the stuff you don't want to do, right? Doing it long enough to get to the point where you don't need to do it anymore, right? So waking up at 4 a.m., my biggest complaint was there's not enough hours in the day. That was like the biggest thing for me. I was like, yo, there's only 24 hours. Like, no matter how I slice it, it's like, well, I was spending 8 of those hours sleeping, right? So a way for me to recapture hours, I grabbed 3 of them from my sleep, plugged them into waking up and getting my work done, really working on myself, working on my mindset, learning the business, and using those early hours so I could do that. So when it came to working hours, when the rest of the world was awake, I could then be out there talking to people, working on making deals happening, doing lead generation, and working my business.
Got it. What is your business exactly?
Yeah, so my business, I stepped into this world of real estate investing. So right now I'm utilizing wholesale strategy to lock up properties, get them under contract at a price that makes sense for other investors, and then I'm selling that contract to the other investor.
But I have a question because I have other friends at wholesale. Sometimes they team up with people that have buyers, and like the people give them their criteria, they find it, they mark it up, and they get a really small piece of it. Or other times they do like turnkey, like start to finish. You know, they'll actually close on the place. I guess put in tenants like a turnkey company, like my buddy Antoine does, or they just get a contract. I don't know, sometimes they get a dumpster there, clean up the place while they're in contract, don't do anything at all, and just flip that contract to the highest and best buyer. Which do you do?
So I do more so right now in the stage where I'm at, because I'm working a virtual market. So I'm working in Milwaukee, although I'm based here in New York. And what I do is I have an end buyer, right? Guy I know, trust, work with really well. I know his criteria, I know what he's looking for. So I will go lock up property and I create my own spread. Right, so if I know he's buying houses in a certain area for, let's use an imaginary number, he's buying them for $100,000. I know I need to go inside there and go lock up the property anywhere beneath that. So I can now make my own spread in there, so I make my own paycheck.
What type of spreads are you typically looking at over there?
So over there, I'm looking at typically anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 on the spread.
So you'll lock up a contract for $85,000 or $90,000, and he's already your end user buyer at $100,000. And what's he doing? Flipping or renting?
He's renting them out, the properties that I get him, unless the property requires it being flipped. So luckily I found out how to think like an end buyer, although I don't have that position yet as being the end buyer. I understand how they think. So I look at the property the exact same way my end buyers look at the property.
Give me numbers, because I love numbers. So you find it for $85,000 and flip it to him for $100,000, right?
Right.
Now, what are the closing costs over there?
Closing costs are not a lot. Let's say closing costs without real estate commissions, you're looking at 2%.
2% closing costs? That's it?
It's nothing. Dude, it's a different market.
$2,000 closing. And that's like what, just title fees?
Just title transfer fees. And
There's
then
no transfer taxes in Milwaukee?
not a lot, no. I'm like trying to think right now. I should have brought a HUD statement for you.
Yeah, I would have loved to see it. Another time, bring it.
Absolutely.
So $2,000 in closing costs. What type of renovations does he do when he buys these houses?
The renovations, nothing major, so he doesn't touch fire damage, but you know, getting inside there, updating the kitchen, updating the bathroom, updating the vanities, that kind of thing. So and then new flooring.
Do you know the budget he has?
Typically, they look to be in on a project for $20,000 to $30,000.
Okay, so let's assume $30,000. And then there's going to be holding costs and miscellaneous costs. I mean, what are taxes over there?
As far as
Property tax.
property taxes, not high at all. Maybe about $1,000.
Wow, on a $100,000 house, it's $1,000.
Dude, you need to get out of the New York market. The
I'm
prices are
blind
different.
to this stuff. This is crazy.
Dude, the house I'm living in, property taxes are $16,000. So
I just
that's how
bought a
I
house
feel.
with $24,000 property taxes.
Jesus.
Yeah. but it brings in gross $10,000 a month.
Okay, so yeah, you're gonna be cash flowing on that still.
Oh, easily. It's a fantastic deal, but still $24,000 a year in
Yeah.
property tax.
So it's like the properties aren't crazy expensive, but they cash flow.
Wow. So he puts in $30,000 in construction, and let's assume $5,000 in miscellaneous fees. That could pop up, whatever it is. And holding costs. So he's all in on a property for $137,000. What's the rent roll?
Property tax out there, properties renting out there for let's say that's a single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's renting in a certain neighborhood. That's going for about $900 a month.
Single family, 2-bed, 2-bath,
3-bed, 2-bath.
3-bed, 2-bath. And this is $900 a month?
Mm-hmm. Now, give or take, you go into different neighborhoods, the prices will change, but the markets, the areas we stay in, that's about where we're at.
Okay, so 9 times 12, $10,800 a year. Right? My math is right.
You typically tend to be on point with your math. Yeah.
All right, cool.
You gotta make me bust out like a calculator.
No, I
this
think
guy
I'm
like
right.
calculates on the
So
spot.
10,800 a year minus taxes of $1,000. Taxes, yearly rent. He doesn't pay any utilities, I'm assuming?
No, the only thing they pay up there is water.
Water?
Mm-hmm.
What does water cost over there?
Water is nothing. It's probably about, I want to say like $400 or $500
A year?
for the year.
That's what it is over here. So 400, let's say, because that's what it is over here, roughly. And now, what else? Do they have to pay permits, like rental permit?
No, not that I know of.
What's insurance, do you know?
Insurance is a little less than $1,000 per house.
Okay, so I'll set it at 900. I can see that. What else are we looking at?
Insurance, water.
Maintenance.
Tenants cover the utilities, maintenance.
I'd say 10% of gross rent roll, right?
That's usually what most people do.
$1,080.
I think that's what he factors as his number.
Does he hire a property management company?
No, he does it in-house. Or he has his own. Yeah, he does it in-house.
Which he probably, all right, let's say he does it in-house. Okay. So I won't even factor it in. So, break out the calculator.
Let's pull it out. This guy Allon and his numbers, man, I love it.
You got it?
Yep, let's run it.
10,800 minus 1,000 minus 400 for water minus 900 for insurance minus $1,080 for maintenance. What's our net?
74.20.
74.20. Divide that by 137,000.
All right, and we are looking at 5.4%.
So he's only got a 5.4 cap?
That don't seem right.
No, it doesn't. So it's 900 probably isn't the right rent.
Yeah, no, so then that wouldn't be the right rent for there. Most of the properties that he's picking up are multifamily. So the single families are flips, and then the multifamilies are where he holds on to.
Okay.
And so the
I think you told me
multifamilies,
this.
funny enough, the multifamilies up there are cheaper than the single families. So in the area,
Why?
that's just what the market is, because most of the people that want to live in it, it's a lot of renters in there. So a lot of the multifamilies are owned by landlords, and then the single families are owned by the actual homeowners.
Really?
So it looks like, if anything, it seems like the investors kind of took over that market, and then they started to control the price.
I could see this price if it was like a 2-family. Like this would make sense if it was, 900 times 2 a month, so $1,800 a month. Then this would be north of like an 11 cap. I could
Right.
see that.
And typically that's what you see with the duplexes. You're seeing just about $900 per unit as well.
Got it. So, and the duplexes are cheaper than the single families.
Duplexes are cheaper. So I've picked up duplexes up there for, like 30,000.
Wow.
It's weird. So it's even like I've come across cases where the people were in arrears. They're in pre-foreclosure, they're in arrears, and then it doesn't even make sense to do a short sale on it, because even going through paying someone to do the short sale, you would end up overpaying the property value.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a different market.
And I remember you told me in Long Island, you pick up the phone and they're like, F you, hang up. And over there, they're like, hey, please take my house. It's so nice to speak to you. Thank you for calling.
Dude, it's a different conversation because the people up there, what essentially, since the properties are so much cheaper, for them, it's kind of like getting in and out of a car, right? You go and you buy a car for 30 grand, you buy a car for 40 grand. It's not that big a deal to sell it. Down here, you know, you're getting into a $500,000 home. That's the biggest investment most people are ever going to make in their entire life. So it's a different conversation. There's way more emotional attachment to it. There's way more, what am I going to do after I sell this property? Where am I going to go? It's going to be harder for them to get into another situation. Down there, it's not the same. Or up there, it's not the same. They're able to get into another situation fairly easily, and there's a ton more rentals, right? So down here, we're tight on the rental market. It's hard to go find a new place to rent.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a different market. That's why I've been learning, where I'm grateful that my buddy talked me in to stepping out and going virtual, because I was really trying to crack the cookie here in New York very early on. Now that I have an understanding of the process, I have way more confidence to break into the New York market. But in the beginning, when you're being overwhelmed with trying to learn the knowledge, trying to learn the industry, trying to learn the terminology, trying to learn how to talk to sellers, trying to learn business, trying to create a system, it was a lot happening all at once.
Yep.
And it became very overwhelming. And that's something that, you know, I'm grateful that I was able to push through and keep on going. And now I'm there where I'm like, okay, awesome. I call it like I made the revolution. I made a revolution around the sun. I saw the process, and then I did it again, and then I did it again, and I said, okay, I have an understanding of how this works, right? The properties themselves are not the most important thing, at least for what we're doing on the wholesale side, right? It's not as important as the person inside the house, right? So I always tell this to people, I'm not looking to buy a property, I'm looking to buy a problem. Right, I'm looking for somebody that has a problem, and I'm looking to come along and be a solution provider.
Well said.
You know, so it's, I think you kind of pick up the same thing down here when you're picking up properties and you're finding deals, and you're finding, whether it be tired landlords or maybe it's just individuals that want to get liquid really quickly.
Most of my deals are actually, it's a happy medium of those two. What you just said, it's estate sales, so kids that got passed on property that don't know what to do with it and don't want it, so they're just selling. I just picked up one of those last week. Other times it's people that need to get liquid. I'm picking up another one next week. They just want to be liquid. They have no mortgage. They don't want to refinance. They don't want a mortgage payment, or they don't have good credit. They just want to get liquid. And in another instance, tired landlords moving to North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. So it's seriously a happy medium of all of those.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. You know, you're able to provide an actual value to people, then you can step into a situation that can potentially be profitable for you for a long time.
Yeah, I had a guy that wanted to sell me his house, and he's like, listen, if you give me all the money, I'm going to spend it. So I don't want all the money. I want you to pay me every month. I was like, all right, so subject to, like, he's holding a mortgage for me. I'm like, fantastic. And he held a mortgage for me, and I pay him every month. And till today, he just did not want all the money up front. He's like, please, I don't live here anymore. I don't want to manage it. They don't pay me anyway. Deal with it. Of course, it's just a different scale over there. It's 40,000. Here it was 400,000.
Yeah.
You know, and I took that headache off of his hands, and I pay him every month, and he's happy as can be.
See, I think that's like the biggest thing that people don't recognize. It's the issue is, a lot of people always wonder, like, well, why would somebody sell a property that's doing good for them? Or why would someone, like, if we're trying to go and get these houses, why would someone be looking to sell the house? And the truth is, everybody's different, right? We don't understand what people's situations are until we start having these conversations, right? You find out this guy is a situation where, hey, like, I'm not looking to be a landlord. I don't want to work right now. I just want to goof off. I still want to collect some passive income, still want to collect some cash flow on it, but I don't want any of the responsibility. You can say, well, cool, to me, this isn't work. I'm good at this. I like doing this, and I want to build a portfolio. So I'm looking to take on what you consider a headache. I'm looking to take that on.
Do you ever come across the older generation where they're like still trying to sell you on it? So they're kind of lying to you that there's no problem here.
Oh my
you
God.
know, but there is, you know, so why are you selling if there's no problem? Don't have to buy it, you know, and then they'll call back the next day and be like, okay, you know, we could talk. Steve and I were just at a property the other day, and the guy was like, it's not the property for you then. I was like, dude, you're asking like double market value. I like the property. I'm interested. I offered him half market value. So, no, I'm sorry. He was asking 1.8 million. I said it's worth 900. I was like, that should be market value. Property with a little bit of improvements and raising some rents would be worth like 1.3. I offered him 900, so I'm like, you know what? This is a good thing to get into. I'll have like north of 30%, a little bit north of 30% equity, so it fits into my criteria. And I gave him the offer at 900, and he's like 1.2. I was like, okay. So he came down 600,000 on my first offer. Let's go see the property. It might make sense. We get there. He's like 1.4, and there is no problem. I'll just keep this forever. I'm like, dude, you're 85 years old. What do you mean keep this forever? Your tenants are cursing you out. You're here all the time handling it by yourself. So he's going to call me back. I guarantee it. He's going to call back and say, I'll go down to 1.2. But now I'm already past 1.2. I want, 1 max.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the biggest thing, right? It's starting the conversation, right? And people will take a no as like a permanent no. And it's like, no's not a permanent thing. No is just a statement that they made today that really means absolutely nothing. If you actually want the property, or if you see that there is a problem, that no is going to turn into a yes. And because you started the conversation, you put yourself in the game. Guess what? When it turns into a yes, who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Right? And that's the part, like that's the mindset, that's the staying power.
My current girlfriend told me no 5 years ago when I met her at the gym.
See?
I met her at the gym. She had a boyfriend, so she's like, nope, I have a boyfriend, sorry. I was like, all right, whatever, what can I do? 5 years later, I come across her on Instagram again, single, and now she's my girlfriend.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, you hear the word no. No just really means not right now. Not at this particular moment.
If that's how you think.
Yeah, well, that's the way you have to think.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want to be successful, it's the only way
100%.
to think. You got to turn that stuff into fuel,
Yeah.
right? I live off of no's now. I love when I get a very direct no because it lets me move into the next step. I hate maybes. Maybes are awful. They're the
Really?
worst. I don't like maybes, man. What is maybe? Limbo? I don't want to live in limbo.
Wow.
Give me a direct answer, like yes or no.
So how do you tackle a no answer?
When I get a no, I say, okay, cool, thank you, and I move on, right? But I planted the seed, right? And then I come back later and I follow back up, right? So that's the biggest thing. Follow up is key, because you revisit that person, you revisit that situation, it changes. Time changes everything. So when I come back later, and most people will be afraid to come back and call back and pick up the phone and talk to someone that rejected them once. But like you're saying, like you and your girlfriend, right? She said no to you way back. You revisited the conversation later. Things change. I actually had a seller this morning, a woman, she told me flat out, she was like, no, I don't want to sell right now. And I love when they say right now. That's like a trigger for me. When you say right now, it's like, oh, okay. So, I heard you say not right now. Let me ask you, does it make sense for me to follow up with you in the future? And then I always get the, cool, you're thinking about it.
I do that too.
Seed's been planted.
When people call me sales calls, I'm like, not right now. And they'll be like, when can we loop back? I'm like, honestly, 2.5 months, I'll probably be ready. So they call me back in 2.5 months, and sometimes they sell me.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
It's true, because what happens is we come into their world just so abruptly, right? Before we pick up the phone, before we go onto an appointment, before we go and meet these people, we're in the realm of non-existence, right? They have no clue who we are.
Well, where do you find these people is a question I get all the time. And luckily, I have brokers and friends like you that are all day finding these people. So I guess for the people listening that want to get into wholesaling, flipping contracts, or just find one good deal for themselves, I get that all the time. Just one. They just want one. How do you find these people?
Great question. So, there's a million and one ways to go at it, right? The way that I think is probably the easiest way to go, right? Pull a list, start dialing that list. Now, pulling a list very simply means, for people that don't know, it's getting a criteria of type of home, right? So a very simple one, an easy one for people to wrap their minds around is pulling something like a pre-foreclosure list, right? Pre-foreclosure, for people that don't understand what that is, simply means this person has defaulted on their loan, so they're not paying their mortgage. Enough time has gone by. The bank has given them an opportunity to get caught up. They have not gotten caught up, so the bank has now gone through the legal action of announcing to the world that seller A over here is not paying their mortgage, and we're beginning the foreclosure process. When they make that announcement to the world, the alarm bells are ringing for investors, because now what that's saying is, here's a homeowner that has a problem, right? So a lot of people are going to begin calling that person that's in pre-foreclosure. Some people are brand new to the space and they don't know any better, and when they call them, they don't handle those conversations with tact, right? So now they're pissing off these people that are already in a tough situation, because you got to imagine it's still a human in that house, and people don't just stop paying their bills for no reason. There's usually some sort of problem. So when we call them, we want to be very respectful, and on top of that, this is a little bit of advice for you guys. If you are going to call a pre-foreclosure list, don't go straight for the sale. Don't go straight for the, hey, I want to buy your house. Not cool, right? Call them, let them know, hey, I'm going to be very honest with you. I get sent a list each month from the county. They just show me the homes that are in pre-foreclosure or that might be experiencing some financial difficulties. I'm a local landlord, and I just wanted to pick up the phone this evening and see if there's anything that I can do to help. What are your plans with the home? Are you looking to keep it? Start the conversation off from that standpoint, because odds are they may want to keep it. And then also, odds are they might be in a situation where they truly can't keep it yet, and they need somebody on their side to kind of walk them through, to show them all their options. Maybe there is an option where they can keep it, but then if we take them through all the logical steps and they see, okay, my situation is the fact that this home is now a burden for me. This home is now a liability for me, and I still can own a home, but just not this one. It's like having a car that's too expensive for you, right? You got excited, you went out, you put it on the credit card, but you really can't afford that $600 a month payment.
Yeah.
Let's bring you down to something that's $150. So that's essentially a list that people can start calling, and that's a way to find what we call motivated sellers, right? And these are people, again, that they have a pain point, right? So whenever we talk to them, we're looking for 4 major things, right? When we're going direct to seller and we're not going through a broker, we're looking for 4 major things. The first is the condition of the property, because that's going to be an indicator of, my roof is falling down, right? Maybe I want to sell it to an investor and it's as is condition, because I can't list it on the MLS, right? Then from there, after I get the condition of the property, I want to figure out what their timeline is. That's very important. Are you looking to sell in 30 days? Are you looking to sell in 3 months? Are you looking to sell yesterday? That changes the conversation, it changes the urgency, it changes what you're going to be offered. Everything gets changed. So that's an important pillar to know. The next pillar, I would say that's very important, is to understand the reason why they are selling, right? Again, that's getting to the pain point. And out of all of these pillars, I would say that's the most important one, to understand the why a person is selling. Because when you understand why, you can then give them what they want, and it might not always be the most amount of money. And then the 4th thing you're going to find out from them is, hey, do you actually have a price in mind? How much do you want for your property? You do own it. You do have the right to sell it at whatever price you want. If that price makes absolutely no sense, I'm going to say thank you for your time. I'll talk to you later. And don't be afraid to walk away from a deal, because at the end of the day, you know this. If the deal doesn't make sense, you walk away. You do the numbers faster than anyone I see. If numbers don't add up, you're out.
Yeah. Thanks.
So,
definitely, that was a great little piece of advice to people listening. You just broke down the keys to identifying a potential seller and a good potential seller for finding a good deal, right? And it's not like you're taking advantage, you're taking an opportunity, and you're taking over a headache. So that the bigger the headache, the bigger the profit.
Exactly.
My lawyer used to tell me that when I got started. He's like, I look for the biggest headache on the nicest block. The most violations. Usually the more violations, the better price you get it for and the more money you make.
It's true. That's the thing. Like we said, we're buying people's problems. So in the beginning, and this is why I now say I have the confidence to do this, and I'm actually retransitioning back into the bigger markets, into the New York, into the New Jersey, into the Arizona, because I recognize and understand now I'm not paying attention to the house as much as I'm paying attention to the person inside the house. And if I can solve their problem, the problems are all relatively the same for the most part, right? The problems don't change that drastically. And if you can provide the solution, if you've built up your tool belt, if you've taken the time to educate yourself, build out a network of people behind you who can handle these sort of issues, then you can step into any conversation in any situation with confidence. So I'm able to show up to these phone calls now, although I'm not the person closing on the deal. I know how the person closing on the deal thinks.
Yep.
I understand. I took the time to educate fully and just immerse in this information. I'm still immersing in this information. I'm still learning new every single day, but it allows me to show up to the seller and really present them with a solution that they just don't know about, and how could they? This isn't their full-time job.
Yeah.
This isn't their obsession.
Yeah. What do these typical sellers do for a living that you're coming across every day?
It's across the board. I mean, it truly, truly is across the board. I mean, you're going to find people that do everything. I had one guy that was a mailman. I had one woman that was retired. A lot of them are fixed income individuals. As they get older, they get into situations where they don't have good money habits. Oftentimes divorce, right? You had two incomes paying the mortgage. Now one person splits.
Wow.
There's only one income paying the mortgage.
Makes sense.
You find folks that are even higher income. So I have friends that are in California. That's a very high-end market, right? And they're running into same sort of situations where the properties are going into default, and you're finding these people with great jobs, poor money habits, poor financial habits. So they were living life on credit. So yes, they might have been earning $200,000, $300,000, but they were spending $400,000 every year. So they were just kind of slowly digging this hole for themselves.
Wow.
So again, this is why I really focus on the people, focus on the problems, and then the deals will start to come in.
Got you. Well said. Well, let's make a transition right now. I want to talk about how you transitioned careers and what happened. I met you at a park. Yeah. What we didn't touch on was that you were like a parkour professional, right? You were doing flips all over the place and all this crazy stuff, and then you were running clinics at the 5 Points? Is it
Five
called?
Stars.
Five
Yeah,
Stars
5-star.
in Long Island. You were running clinics and stuff for people to learn parkour and do all these crazy flips, and you're an absolute flip maniac. So then one day I saw you just post something about real estate, and you're like, I'm transitioning my career from all these athletics, and I don't know what else you were doing, but I want you to talk about it, and I'm getting into real estate. And you really did. Like, you got in as hard as physically possible into small residential wholesaling, and that's what you're focusing on, and you're trying to do it at volume, and you're doing a fantastic job. You've locked up 3 so far. So what did you do at that time? Like, what was your full-time job or part-time job?
Yeah, man. So the parkour world was my life, right? So I did come from that world of parkour. I just tunnel visioned into that maybe about, at this point, it had to have been like 8 years ago. So a video got into it and started coaching it, started teaching it, taught at 5-star in East Rockaway, went to Woodward, and I was the parkour program director there. Had
Sick.
over 1,000 students. Like, I absolutely loved it. And it really taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot about teaching. And this is funny because I bring this up because parkour is actually the reason I went into real estate. All the students I coached were the reason. Because working with so many kids year after year, I started to build very deep, strong relationships with these families, right? Mm-hmm. With these students, with these kids. And I became something of a mentor to a lot of them, which I didn't anticipate that happening. But it's a natural effect of spending so much time with people. And I found that the kids were starting to look up to me. They were starting to copy me. They were starting to speak like me, talk like me, move like me. And I only realized over time, right? Because you spend a few years back to back with kids, you're going to see those new habits start to take hold. And as they're getting older, you're like, wow, that's crazy, man. He thinks like me. He's moving like me. And I would ask them, what do you want to be when you get older? A lot of the times I would get the answer, I want to be a parkour coach. And as nice as that made me feel, it also made me feel like I'm screwing these kids over.
Why?
Because if your highest goals, dreams, and aspirations are to be a parkour coach here in New York on Long Island, it doesn't pay the bills. Like, that's just the honest truth. Like, there's not enough money in the industry yet. Even as professional athletes, like, there's just not enough money. It's not like the NFL. There is no like fat paycheck at the end of this. And I thought to myself, like, okay, like, I don't want these kids to be in a position in life later on when they get older, they pursue this parkour and they find themselves where they're choosing between passion and a paycheck. And they're feeling like life has to be separated. The two can't be intertwined. And I realized, okay, in order for me to teach them this, I need to go out and figure out how to do it for myself. So I began a journey for what can I do, where can I pour myself into next that will give me a fat paycheck and also give me purpose.
Yeah.
And I came across real estate investing. I came across this idea that I can create win-win situations, that I can solve people's problems and make money. Because at the end of the day, it always came back to people. I like people. That's just who I am personally.
Yeah.
So
You're very personable and you're very kind. Since the day I met you, you've always been kind, friendly, and always tried to push people to do more.
I appreciate that, so, and I always try and lead by example. The same way I coached parkour, I coached on skills that I had locked under my belt. If a kid asked me how do I do something, I would either go and figure it out for myself and then come back and say, hey, this is how it's done. Or I would say, hey, I can tell you the theory, right? I've studied the theory. I can pass theory on to you, but ideally you need to go talk to Josh. You need to go talk to David. They've done that skill and they can tell you what it's going to feel like experientially.
Yeah.
So that's what I find myself doing here in this world of real estate. Locking this stuff down for myself so that I can now come back to my community and say, hey guys, this is how it's done. And the more I dive into it, the more I realized I should have started way long ago, because the information that I'm learning, it was so brand new. Like I said, a fish out of water with it. I didn't know the terminology. I didn't even know to think a certain way. Now I look at, earlier tonight I was talking to Matt and Steve and I was telling them, I used to think $100,000 was a lot of money, right? That was a lot of money to me.
It is a lot of money.
It is, and then it isn't. When you realize what others have, what true wealth looks like, you start to realize, wow, $100,000 can be gone in less than an hour. In less than 5 minutes, it can be gone, right? So we can accumulate that, but that's not enough to retire your family.
Of
If
course.
your goal is to retire your mom, if your goal is to take care of your kids, if your goal is to
Buy your parents a house.
right, that money is gone instantly. So my goal is to create generational wealth while also bringing financial literacy back to my community. So that involves me becoming a way bigger person than I've been my entire life.
Yeah. Wow. Well said. Yeah, and your attitude and I guess your goals are contagious, because I see you all the time posting on your stories. Like, I watch your stories. I don't watch everybody's stories. I feel like most of them are a waste of time, and I have nothing pulls me there. Yours pull me because you always post these goals. You're like, this morning, 39 calls, 4 a.m. club, and I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then at the end of the day, you like give this briefing, like, I did this, this, and this, or in the beginning of the day. I don't know if you've still done that actively, but I remember, like, every time I go on your story, that's what I see. And it's like contagious. I'm like, damn, the kid made 39 calls today. I got to shoot over to the office, make sure everybody's calling like crazy. I want Matt to do 239 calls today, but you posted like, this is what I've done up until 9 a.m. Like, it's so cool. It's contagious, and I bet if I called you and told you, because you did that, I'm going to make everybody else do even more. We're going to all do more together. And you're going to love that, because that's why you love to do it, right? You're spreading that wealth of knowledge and what you're doing and showing people these goals, these objectives that can be hit every day, and still taking out time for you and doing these mountain hikes. And it is really contagious.
Dude, I appreciate that. And like, I truly, like, that means a lot to me, because ultimately that's what I learned. I learned that I have to put it out there, right? Because it becomes selfish of me if I don't put things like that out there, because it does have the power to inspire, right? Because I was inspired the same way. I was ghosting around on YouTube and I saw something positive that grabbed hold of me, right? First it was parkour, then it was, real estate investing. It was Max.
It was just one YouTube video?
Just one YouTube video, and that's all it took, to start you down that rabbit hole. It started me down that rabbit hole, and from there it kept going. But if that person had never put that piece of content out thinking, yeah, well, I'm gonna wait till it's perfect, right? I love that one. I'm gonna wait till it's perfect and then I'll begin releasing. Well, guess what? You are at that point are being selfish, and you're taking away someone's opportunity to begin today, because you might have the message for them that can get them started, that can change the trajectory of their life, but you're holding it in because you want it to be perfect.
So funny about this conversation. Yesterday, I shot a podcast with Justin Romano and Frank Pugliese.
Freaking love those two.
Yeah, they're the best, right? And Frank brought up a point, and so did Justin. They said, you know why they used me as an example. They're like, Allon, we like your content, like you, because you're actually doing it. Like, you have bought all these houses and you're renting them out and you're learning through experience, and then you started with social media. Most people, they start with social media and then do it. Now, personally, I like you. You're not a wildly successful guy like some of the guys I have on here, but you're so damn ambitious. You're so damn ambitious that it's contagious. Like, I can't say you did 300 houses yet.
There we go.
But you will, because you've done 3 houses in a few months. You know, a few months ago, I was on your podcast when it just began. You didn't even launch it yet. Now you've gained thousands of followers in such a short amount of time. You're waking up every day at 4 a.m. You're making money on social media, which we haven't even gotten into yet, which impressed me more than anything. And you've locked up and closed 3 deals with probably plenty more in the pipeline because of that nonstop persistence and ambition you have. And that's why I invited you on the podcast. So what do you think about that? What Frank and Justin were saying, like, you should do it first and then start posting so you understand, you know what you're posting. What do you think?
Oh man, so I completely agree with them, and this might throw people off, right? Like, wait, but you're talking about stuff right now, right? But if you pay attention to my content, for anyone that watches my content, you'll see I really only talk about the things that I've done personally. And when I find something that's still theory to me, that I know it to be true, but I haven't yet proven it in my own life, I bring a guest on, right? So that was the purpose of the podcast.
Yeah.
The purpose of the podcast was me recognizing, damn, if I had learned this earlier, I would have had a head start. I recognize I have an audience that I am the only person that has access to them, right? I have their ears and their hearts. For whatever reason, they chose me as the voice for them, right? Everyone has their own audience. Everyone has their own crowd. So now if my crowd is waiting for me to be ready to be at the top of the mountain, they might be waiting a long time. I don't know how long they're going to be waiting. What if they can get started today and also join me along the journey, right? How can I get them started today? Well, I'm getting poured into by all these people like yourself, people like Pace, people like Matt Simmons. Like, these people are just unloading value into me, and they're from the top of the mountain. They already went to the top of that mountain. So I leverage their experience. I bring them onto my podcast and I say, hey guys, I learned about this thing and I know it's to be true. I have this feeling in my soul that it's true, but I can't tell you yet it's true from my personal experience. But listen to my guests. Listen to them talk about it from the top of the mountain. That was the purpose of having the podcast. And then on my social media, you'll see, like, I post about the things, like you said, it's what I've done. Hey guys, like, I'm in the middle of making these cold calls. Hey guys, I'm in the middle of getting yelled at and cursed out by sellers. Hey guys, I finally got a seller that I just recorded, actually. I dropped it into a private Facebook group, so it's not for the whole world to see, but a conversation I had with a seller where I walked them through everything, I talked them, and I get the deal locked up right there live on the phone. And I put it into the group so everyone can see this is what the conversation looks like, right? So I'm not just talking about theory anymore. This is me actually capturing it in real time and stuff like that. So essentially, that's the thought process of, if I wait until I'm finished, there might be people that need to hear this message today.
Got it.
And I know that I'm going to continue to get better. And one of the biggest things, right, and this is maybe, I'm curious to see how, like, Frank and Justin think about this, right? I believe when we start releasing at an earlier stage, it's kind of like an artist, right? Let's say, Logic?
Yeah, of course.
Right, so Logic is awesome. A lot of people, started listening to him this year. Some people started listening to him, 2 years ago. Some people started listening to him 5 years ago. Some people started listening to him before he was famous, right? So when people are like, oh, do you know Logic? Some people are like, dude, what do you know about Logic? I've known him since forever.
Yeah.
Right, I knew him before he even had an album, right? They get to be day one fans, right? They get to travel on that journey with him. And there's value in that. There's value in being able to say, like, I've seen him since when he sucked. I saw him back when he was in the cafeteria rapping and nobody would give him the time of day.
Wow.
Right? So by starting my journey now, I'm allowing people to jump on
You're a big
and
Logic
get to
fan?
say that. I do like Logic. I wouldn't say I'm a big Logic fan, but I do like Logic.
All right, cool.
But like, I think that's the cool part. We get to give people an opportunity to join the journey and really see it from start to finish and see the evolution.
Yeah. You remember I told you your key to all of this is your podcast? I'm like, otherwise I wouldn't have had the time to meet with you. I would have loved to meet with you and talk to you and explain things to you, but I just don't have that time in the day. You approached me and said, I have a podcast that's going to have 200 daily listeners, and if that's enough for you, I want an hour of your time to, you sold me, and you made the sale, and I was like, get in, come here, let's go, let's shoot this podcast. And while we were in the podcast, I told you, this is your value, this is your key to getting in the door with so many successful people. I don't even consider myself successful. I don't think I'm at the top of any mountains. I think I'm just beginning, and I'm having a great time doing it, and I have a lot more to grow and learn, and from a lot of people that I work with as well. And it's funny because like you tell me all the time, or other people are like, I want to be where you are, but I want to be where somebody else is, you know. So what's my key? My key is the money I usually make people. Like, here's a deal. I could get you all your money back in a year, and you'll cash flow for the rest of your life. That's what I pitch. You know, you're pitching something else, and you want to get in with all these people so they can explain, and you can have really quality content, which you do. I'm so impressed. Again, you really do, because of your podcast.
Yeah,
so
man.
it's the truth. That's why I agree with you. Like, you know what? I did agree with Justin and Frank, and I still think there's value in what they were saying. But with the way you just explained it to me, with like logic and day one, and the way you're providing it to your followers through like a podcast and other people, is so true. Like, that is, you're not, you know, you're not lying, you're not bullshitting. You're looping other people in so they could teach the people, your listeners, your audience, that only you have access to. So what you're saying, like, you have that core group. I know you do, because you have that Zoom class thing going on. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's spot on, you know, and, you know, having that podcast, especially early on with you, you did plant that seed in my mind of, hey, man, like, you can use this to get into the door with a lot of other people. And I took that and I ran with it. I was like, yeah, he's right, actually. I can just utilize this and leverage this to step into spaces that I wouldn't have access to yet, right? Because I haven't done those sort of deals yet. I don't have that network. I didn't grow up in the certain neighborhoods where everyone knows each other. So I was coming in as a complete outsider. So how did I break in? Because at this point, the show's had over $20 million worth of net worth on there. It's had individuals that are, you know, 500 units plus in commercial real estate developers. It's had, you know, like Charles, guys that have flipped over 300 houses here in Long Island. Like, just all these people that are from where I'm at in the industry, out of my league, right? But because I was able to bring the value of the podcast and essentially say to them, hey, let me expose you to my audience who doesn't yet know of you, right?
Yeah.
Like, let me give you a platform to be able to share your information. And you helped plant that seed in me. You were like, hey, dude, like, this is valuable, what you have here. And it took root. And I said, okay, cool, let's go do it.
Where do you see the social media taking you? Like, what's the importance of the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's big, man. So like I said before, like, it all comes back to people. Always has, always will be. So I see it as the social media is my gateway to grabbing like-minded individuals, right? And as I grab them organically now through the growth, I like to spread organically. I like the idea of organic spreading, because that means the people, if someone's really digging the podcast and digging the content, they're going to share it, right? And when they share it, they're pulling someone else that will most likely enjoy it, and that person shares it, and then that person, and then it becomes this thing that's ramping up on its own. With that, I'm providing them with value, what I know to be truly value. And this is the thing. There's so much content out there on the space, on the internet, where not all of it is valuable, or some of it's like, it's not doing the job it should do, in my opinion, right? Of really providing people with the tools necessary to do the business properly, right? As I've been getting into it, I see that some people are just selling people on the dream, which is, I'm not knocking them. Go ahead, sell the dream, but then also on the back end, be ready to give them the next step. Right?
But they don't. They just sell them because it converts, even if they're not doing it. You know, Steve and I speak about this all the time, and other people bring this up to me all the time about why I don't show off, you know, and it's like, first of all, that's not me. I like to explain, you know, I like numbers. I love breaking it down to the nearest cent and percent and figuring it out. And that's what I put out there, you know, although I'm not catching trend like those mostly realtors, or real estate gurus that are like, you know, hot shot type of stuff, like flexing hard or showing something cool, you know, and it's the truth. Like, everything you're saying is so true, because that's not what we do, right? You're providing value. You're providing hours worth of Zoom calls to explain to people how to pitch, and you're showing them real life examples, and you do it for free in most instances, right? Which I want to also talk about how you capitalized on that. And I break down numbers for people, you know, and I have my strong, small audience, And you have your strong small audience, but unfortunately, what we pitch doesn't get that Grant Cardone, type of audience where he just flexes, and if you want any information, you got to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like, and I recognize that where it's, the audience is small. However, I still say, if I say, like, you'll see this, like, when I get on live, I'll literally start off by saying, like, hey, as long as even one person's on here, I'm pouring in, right?
I hear you say that all the time.
Yeah, and it's just, because at the end of the day, it always comes back, like, I'm a broken record when it comes to this. People matter to me, big time. So if I could pour into one person, truly give them value, I know that they can go out and provide that value to others,
yeah,
right? And when they do that, that spread happens again. And so recognizing that, yeah, I'm going to start smaller in the beginning, but I'm going to build a strong core following, like just people that are always going to stick around. I mean, you get this, right? When you open up your DMs and people send you back just like words of thanks, words of encouragement, letting you know that like what you did mattered to them, because you're not sure where they are in life sometimes, right? Because sometimes you're not going to communicate directly with every personal fan you have or every person that's following you. You're just not going to, you might not know them like a best friend.
Of course.
Maybe they DM you and you have a conversation here and there, but you don't know their whole life yet.
Yeah.
And then you find out that they were going through a depression. Or, one particular example I have, the episode I did with Shireen Dora on the podcast, really powerful episode. And a friend of mine texted me and says, oh my God, you just changed my friend's life. I'm like, who's your friend? She's like, well, you never met her. I'm like, well, what happened? She's been in an abusive relationship for the last 2.5 years or so, right? And after listening to the podcast that I sent over to her, she sent the Shireen podcast to her, she was like, that gave her everything she needed to finally end that relationship, move out of that house, and she's moving to Tennessee with me. And I was just like, holy crap, that's awesome. And like, her friend sent me the message.
I have chills just hearing that.
Dude, she sent me the message, was like, just thank, like she showed me the text and I was like, oh my God, like, so the podcast was a catalyst for that. And I was just like, I need to keep doing this.
Wow.
Like, I didn't anticipate that. I couldn't have possibly have known that. I didn't even know this girl. I didn't know she existed. And to know that it had a powerful effect just by getting on there and sharing the story, sharing the journey.
That's sick. Wow, that's crazy.
But to your point,
did they do it?
Did she
they
move? Yeah. She's down there right now. She's in Tennessee.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. Like it was nuts. So it's really cool, and like she's been getting along better. She's progressing in life again. Because being in a crappy relationship, being in a crappy environment can literally stunt you. I'm sure you understand this. This is why you surround yourself with the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, only.
Yeah.
Only the people, only the top tier people and people that have ambitions and everything. I don't have time for anybody else. And I'm blatant, like I'm rough about this, and I'm hard set on this. If you're not bringing me up, get out of my life.
Yeah.
End of story, and I'm going to do my best to bring you up in every single way I can. And I think that's why people surround themselves with me as well. And I'm hard set on it, like it's non-negotiable, So I agree with you.
Dude, big time. And that's why like you're someone that like I see it as worthy of spending time with, right? I see it as valuable. It's like, yeah, I'll hang out with Allon for that exact reason.
Yep.
Where I recognize like, all right, you're in the business of growing yourself and growing people. If people can't grow with you and you can't grow yourself, you're not interested in that sort of transaction.
Well, I loved the last time we met up. It was to analyze a deal that you found me, but it didn't work out. No big deal, right? We do this all day long.
Yep.
And we'll keep doing this for a long time. But while we're here, you're asking me questions. You wanted to meet with me every time so you could learn.
Yeah.
And learning is everything. Learning is earning. It's like it's necessary for everything. I love to learn, you love to learn, and we push to learn, right? So you came here, you want to learn from me in what I know about underwriting deals, and we're talking and everything is good and we call it a night. As we're walking out, you mentioned something. I was like, whoa. What do you do? And you're like, I do XYZ and I use Google. What was it called again?
Dude, Google Forms.
Google
Most people
Forms.
don't even know about
Which
this.
I didn't know
Crazy.
about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, Marlon, turn around. I'm unlocking the door. You're walking me through this. We spent the next like hour and a half of you walking me through Google Forms, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So it's vital to everything. That knowledge, that learning, that bringing each other up. I'm bringing you up by you learning how to underwrite and hopefully make some money by flipping me or acting as the realtor on a deal. And and you're bringing me up by teaching me all these tips and tricks that I can't know because I'm not starting. I didn't get to start small like you. with ground up and getting into it later. I need Steve. If I don't have Steve or a Steve in my life, whenever he starts traveling the world again, then I can't do this. I can't post, I can't do podcasts, I can't be active because I don't have that type of structure in my life. That's the benefit also of starting small a lot of the times.
Yeah.
You get to know every aspect of what you're doing. You don't need a Steve in your life. Eventually you might have one, a film producer, a videographer, whatever, and when you do, it'll take a lot off your plate, but until then, you can do it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Steve and I were just talking about this earlier where I was just like, man, I'm getting to the point where I'm maximizing as much of my time as possible, and I'm recognizing I'm just one man. I'm just one guy, and like there's 24 hours in a day. So it's like I'm getting more and more efficient, but then I'm recognizing, and this is something that folks have been telling me, it's like, dude, eventually in order to do more, you need to scale up, you need to bring on people, you need to have a team.
And it's not easy. Digging into your pocket, especially when you don't have, is very difficult.
And that's exactly why I've been staying at the size I've been staying, because I've been building what I refer to it as my war chest.
Yeah.
Right? So I build the war chest because essentially I don't believe in turning something on to turn it back off. Right? So if I turn on something, let's say I bring in an employee number one, I need to have enough funds to fund employee number one for 6 months and account for, hey, maybe 6 months go by and not a single dollar comes back in. I need to make sure that employee number one is able to continue working and continue to be paid. Or else that means I didn't really believe in employee number one.
Yeah.
Right? Because essentially employee number one should be bringing money back into the business.
Yeah, in some way, shape, or form. Like it's difficult to gauge sometimes. For example, my employee number one on the management side, I was like, it was so hard for me to hire a manager to run around all day because that's a lot of what I was doing. And I'm like, if I hire her, it's taking out of my pocket, say, $4,000 a month. And she's not making me more money.
Right.
But what do I value my time? Per hour, per day. Like, how much time is this taking away from me? And then I had to analyze it. It is taking away from me money, right? Because my time is devoted to something I can hire somebody else to do. And I've been doing this now for X amount of years. So now, like two years when I hired her. So 2 years of me doing this, it's time to hire somebody on, And since I hired her on, I bought, I don't know, like tons of rentals. I brought in so much more in rentals, in rent roll because of this woman taking so much off my plate. And now I hired another person, Chris, who runs my digital side and the bookkeeping side and all the management side. We're going to, broaden our horizons and build this into a big management company, hopefully. So you have to value it somehow, right? Like maybe they're not handing me money, right? They're not making sales for me, but they're taking time. They're giving me more time to do what's important to me and to really be the entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the opportunity cost, right? Because you're now scaled into a part of your business where you're more valuable to your business by not doing that job. You're more valuable to your business by picking up the phone and building a connection, building a network, underwriting the bigger deals when they flow in after people have found it, and recognizing that it's okay to let control go. It's like, that's really cool. That's why I like watching even your evolution and your progression from the first time I walked in here to where you're at now. I've seen it. There's been growth. It's not sitting stagnant. This is by no means sitting stagnant. This is growing over time. The first time I walked in here, I don't even think Chris was a part of the operation.
No, he wasn't.
So it's like seeing that grow has been absolutely phenomenal. It's been fun to watch, man.
Yeah.
So, just as much as you're saying I inspire you, you inspire me, man. Like, I definitely appreciate being able to tap in and plug into you. And
Thanks,
just,
man.
Kind of feed off of that energy.
I appreciate that. Now if I only learn how to capitalize on social media like you, and I want you to talk about that too. So the way you explained it to me was so interesting. So you're making money on social media, which you're making money through social media by converting people over to your Zoom groups, right? And this is by accident. You just wanted to provide
by
value.
Accident. Yep.
So explain it a little bit.
Man, I love it because this is actually this was the unique aha moment where I was like, oh my God, now I have a better understanding of this. So essentially what I started doing, right? I had a need for myself, which was I needed to get better at talking to sellers, right? I just didn't have enough lead generation and lead flow in to really be on the phones as much as I wanted to getting this practice. So I said, all right, well, how can I get practice? A buddy of mine reached out to me. He was like, yo, let's do some role play. I'm like, all right, cool. Funny enough, he read a Grant Cardone book, and Grant Cardone talked about doing role play for his sales job for an hour every single day. So I said, do you want to do this? Game, let's go. So we started doing it every day at 6 a.m., right? Hopping on the phone with each other, 6 a.m. till about 7. Actually, in the beginning, we were going even longer, right? Just repping it out. We try to get other people involved, and nobody was taking on to it. Like, everyone's like, you guys are stupid, you guys are crazy, 6 o'clock in the morning, no, right? Whatever. We keep going. And then finally, we get somebody to jump in with us and join us on a call. So now there are 3 of us, right? There's 3 idiots in the morning at 6 a.m. We get someone else come in, 4 idiots, 5 idiots, 6 idiots. And then now it started to spread out because in Facebook, people are saying, like, what would happen is after the calls, they would go back onto Facebook because they're just all pumped up and jazzed up. Like, oh man, just did 2 hours of role playing. I'm ready to get at it. So now people are like, yo, what's this role play stuff? What's happening? Yeah, guys, 6 a.m., come to the dojo. We called it the sales dojo.
Nice.
Come to the dojo. So people started showing up. Before I knew it, we had, there was a few mornings where we had like over 40 people showing up consistently in there, 6 a.m. Eastern. And some people were coming in from California. Some people were coming in from Arizona. Like, it wasn't just local. It was nationwide. So it was really cool. And what I realized at that point in time was, damn it, this isn't what I wanted.
To the Zoom group chat you had going on.
To the Zoom group chat in the morning, 6 a.m.s. And what I realized was I wanted to create a space where you got in and you got repetition.
From how long did it take you? Like, you started what day and
Dude, it didn't take long at all, man. It literally took, I would say, to the point where we had about like 40 people, maybe about a month to get people in there. Just because of the consistency. And that's the key to social media, right? I'm sure Steve can talk about this all day long. Consistency was the key. The fact that we kept showing up every day. And now at some point I did start to recognize what I was doing. So it wasn't completely by accident. It started by accident. But then at some point when I realized, we might have something here, I did start to tell people, hey guys, I gave them a call to action. Yo guys, if you're getting any value from these role play calls in the morning, if you're getting anything, just do me a favor, go back on Facebook, go on social media, and just let people know what we're doing in here. That way they can also get the value. Because that was truly my intention. I wanted to create a space for people, because people are new to real estate, they're learning all this information, they're getting inundated with it, but they're feeling overwhelmed and they take in so much knowledge, they're actually scared to pick up the phone and start calling and start utilizing that knowledge. So they never get over that barrier, and then it's all locked in, so then they lack confidence because they never actually use the skill. So I wanted to give them a place to use the skill. Come work out, right? Come work your muscles, gain confidence, and then go outside and go play.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the concept. So when people were getting value, I said, go share this with people. Let them know they should be doing this. Not even let them know, come do it with us.
And then how did you convert this to money?
That's great. So the part where I convert it to money now, like I said, when I realized it was getting too big, because now I was starting to get people as flies on the wall, right? People were coming in and just watching. And I was like, dude, it's like showing up to the gym and not working out.
Yeah.
I started essentially reaching out to different people, said, yo, I need you guys to run these so I could push people out of my room, right? I need to push people out of this Zoom call and into yours. Started doing that, but people kept coming back. They just wanted to watch some more. So I said, okay, we need to make this more exclusive. We need to cut the numbers down, and we need to really wean out the people that are only going to participate. That way the people in it can get value. So I said, guys, we're cutting it down, 15 people only. And on top of that, we're charging. Now I want to see who's really about it. Before I did this, though, what we did was we had a 4-hour live on Facebook doing practice role plays, practice seller calls, and we essentially ran like a commercial or a marathon.
How did you have the 4-hour live? You did a live for an hour, off, on again?
No, just right in Zoom. Ran it from Zoom, streamed it to Facebook Live.
How?
Right? Oh, you could just go onto Zoom. Like if you have a paid Zoom account, you go onto Zoom, you click on the go live, like you just send it live, and then it could channel live into wherever. So I channeled it live into a Facebook group where there's a ton of like wholesalers learning the industry and things of that nature, and they were now able to watch this thing. Like,
what do you mean a Facebook group?
So there's a Facebook group. There's plenty of Facebook groups out there, like, you know.
Oh, a Facebook group. Sorry,
yeah.
I was thinking about Instagram.
No. So this was on Facebook. So I took this to Facebook, right? So they're on Facebook now. They're watching it, going 4 hours straight. What I did was I tapped into my network of just like heavy hitters, of guys that I know are closing deals, that are locking up, that are running 6-figure, 7-figure businesses, and had them come on, and it's like, all right, we're gonna do role plays together. Only the heavy hitters are talking, right? So everyone else for now is actually gonna be just a fly on the wall. and the heavy hitters are in there, and we're just demonstrating how we do this, right?
Yeah.
And 4 hours of that goes by. At the end, I drop a Google form. Well, I was actually plugging the Google form throughout the event, throughout the time, and just letting people know, like, hey, if you're interested in doing something like this, if you think something like this would be valuable to you and your business, just fill out the form and get on the wait list.
And
right?
how many people signed up?
And that day, we had 70 people sign up.
Wow.
So
How much per person?
150. So 150 for a head for 1 month of just coming into the room, making these calls. And the cool part was these were things that I was doing anyway, right? So
Holy shit.
this was something that if no one had shown up, me and my buddy were still going to be waking up and doing this because we were solving our own problem, right?
Yeah.
That's how this all started. So now getting people in, right? They're now paying. So now we're getting paid. Essentially, that's my marketing budget right there, right? That's money coming in. It's interesting because this was my first time ever doing anything like this.
That's a $10,500 hit just like that. Boom.
Dude,
That's huge.
it was nuts, man. So I had never done anything like this before, and now I recognize the power in creating an audience, right? And by creating an audience organically, you already know who they are and what they want, right? And now that you know who they are and what they want because you created the audience, you can deliver them something of value. So I always check in with my people too, because I still do these calls with them in the morning. I ask them, like, yo guys, is this still valuable? I still rack my brain around, like, how can I make this better? It's an amazing experience. People have locked up deals. I've helped people negotiate, $60,000 price reductions. I had Matt, he locked up a deal yesterday or 2 days ago, and we role played his situation that morning before he went in on that appointment.
Really?
Dude, this is
And it converted and you locked it in.
literally converted that day.
So that $150 is worth,
It already paid for itself 1,000,000 times, 1,000 times over.
wow.
So it's valuable stuff. And that's kind of the name of the game, like provide value, right? So that was all I did
Really,
there.
if he made $15,000 on that contract flip, it did pay him 100 times.
So he's actually locking this one down himself too. So he's actually going to be flipping the property himself.
Wow.
So he's probably going to be pulling, I think after he told me what the numbers are going to be, it's like 40 or 50K he's looking to net on this
It's incredible.
for a $150 investment.
Incredible.
It's nuts.
And his willingness to learn.
So we call it the Committed Sales Training Dojo, because you're waking up every morning, 6 a.m. He's 1 hour time zone behind me, so he's waking up at 5 a.m. to be there every morning.
Damn.
I had a woman from Arizona waking up at 4 a.m. and I had one guy from California, 3 a.m.
3 a.m.?
3 a.m. to be in there. And people are like, yo, this is my coffee, man. Like, I wake up, we get inside here, like, it's like, I'm ready for my day. And I'm like, I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. So it keeps me committed too, because I'm showing up every single day for this. I'm up at 4 a.m., but I'm in there at 6.
3 a.m.?
3 a.m., bro.
That scares me. Even thinking about that. But you know what? You have the 4 a.m. club, so you're there anyway, up at 4 a.m., and then you transition from that to at 6 a.m. So where's the Marlon time? When do you take time for yourself?
It's 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's me.
Oh,
That's when I
really?
wake up, and that's my time to sit. That's my time to meditate. That's my time to read. That's my time to soak in new knowledge and be a sponge. No one else is awake at that point in time.
Wow.
And I can focus on pouring into myself before I start going out and trying to unload and pour into the world.
Got it.
So that time is super important to me. It used to be from 4 a.m. to 7, so obviously I lost an hour there, now pouring into the people that are coming into the dojo. But when they start telling me how valuable it's been, that pours back into me. So I guess that is still Marlon time. And there are some mornings where there have been 2 mornings where I didn't want to do it, but it's a commitment, right? You tell someone you're going to do something, you do it.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. 100%. It's like a promise or a bet. I'm hard set on that stuff too. Like you gamble. If you make a bet and you lose, you have to pay up. You win, you have to get paid. I'm also hard set on that too. I'm crazy about it.
Yeah, man. I saw your your challenge with the Connect 4.
Connect 4. A lot of people were talking, they had a big mouth, so I had to show them the heat.
Yeah, man, I love it. I saw how quiet it got, in your
Yeah.
DMs right afterwards. Everyone was always talking.
Remember I used to
crap.
post them?
Yeah.
And so there's actually 4 people that played total. I made $281 on Connect 4.
There we go.
In a day and a half. $281 playing Connect 4 against the big shots,
Freaking love it, man.
Isn't that great?
Dude, that's awesome. It was funny to watch that because I've been watching your story every week consistently. You just wrecking your family, just anybody could get it on the table.
Yeah, hell yeah. But I'm I'm taking advice from people that have been on my podcast, like Justin and Frank, and like you, about taking time for myself as well and stuff like that. I do think it's vital, and because of that, I do have to cut this podcast now, although we could talk for hours, because I made a promise that I'd go to wrestling practice tonight.
Nice.
And coach some kids and just roll around and have some fun and take some time for me. And last night I worked till 12 at night.
Jeez.
You know? And today I said I made a promise to my old coach and some people, and so that starts soon, and I gotta head over there in a minute. But this was a great podcast, and seriously, it was a pleasure being on yours. It was a pleasure having you on mine. You dropped some fantastic pieces of advice throughout this conversation that we had, and strategies and ideas for people that want to get into the business and are going ground up, like they're just getting started. You don't have to start with $1 million or 100,000 even. You could start with $150. You could start with nothing and just watch a few YouTube videos. So I really appreciate you coming in here, giving people a new perspective, and hopefully planting that seed.
Absolutely. And Allon, I seriously appreciate you having me on the show. You ask amazing questions. You really guide the conversation. And hopefully people were able to get value out of this. I think they get a ton of value from you already. So I do appreciate what you're doing and just releasing that to the world. That's important, man. That's big. So thank you.
Thanks, man. Mic drop. Holy shit. Marlon, you're awesome, dude. Like, that energy is just contagious. I love it. I said it multiple times throughout this podcast. This guy knows how to just pull you in, make you want to be a fan, like you're a fan. I can't do anything about it. I'm a fan of Marlon Johnson. I don't even want to get into wholesaling, but he made me want to get into, waking up at 4 a.m. I mean, the guy is an animal. He really is so ambitious. It was so refreshing just to listen to him talk and understand how he thinks and why he thinks that way and the things he does. I mean, the 4 a.m. club, creating this audience at 6 a.m. to role play on selling contracts and getting people to actually do it before for nothing in the beginning, and how it's turned into a business. I mean, how cool is that? Definitely drop him a follow, specifically on Instagram, Mindset Marlon. He mentioned it in the beginning, at Mindset Marlon. You'll love his stories. His stories is where he really drops a lot of that awesome content, and you miss it after 24 hours, so stay looped in. If you're listening to this on anywhere that you could drop a comment, subscribe, or review it, please do that for me. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. Drop a comment if you have any questions. I'll personally be responding. And if you have any questions for Marlon, feel free to DM him. The guy answers all of his DMs. He's really hands-on and he loves to build that community. So share this if you learned anything. Marlon actually taught me this. If you learn anything useful throughout this podcast that you feel can impact a friend or family member or somebody you know, I want you to share it with them. Hear that feedback. Even tell them to scroll through and get to that certain point where you heard that little saying that you think would be valuable for them. And I'd really appreciate that. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to drop another awesome podcast soon. This was just amazing. Thank you, Marlon, for joining. It was my pleasure, and mic drop.